Welcome back, everyone. My name is Jon Uhler, and this is Journey to Healing. This is a very special edition of Journey to Healing because we are in a series that's introducing a new counseling model, a trauma-informed counseling model for those that have gone through very extensive sexual abuse. But not just extensive, but very sadistic. Those two are usually the same, but there is a category of sex offenses. And I've worked with men that have perpetrated these kinds of offenses. But the impact on survivors is profound and long-lasting. And the question is there hope for healing, especially when that kind of abuse segments or compartmentalizes their personality and leaves emotional scars and also spiritual scars, potentially for years, if not a lifetime. And the good news is that yes, there is hope, and IHC is here to offer that hope. Diana and I are picking up where we left off on part 2. I recommend you go back if you are not familiar with our series. In the show notes, you'll see the links to part 1 and part 2, including also Diana's website and SurvivorSupport.net, which is my website. And we're picking up where we left off, which is looking at just the very concept of ritualistic abuse. Is it a thing? And then in the interview that she and I have, part 3, the conversation took a very needed turn. We begin to look at the effects on the marital relationship, the effects on a survivor's ability to engage in and enjoy sex and their sexuality. And this is something that rips marriages apart, and we are here to give hope. Diana will discuss how the healing has taken place to where her over 20-year marriage now is better than it ever has been. And I look forward to picking up the interview on the other side of this introduction.
Welcome to Journey to Healing. Do you find yourself discouraged, troubled, in need of healing, but not sure where to turn? Jon Uhler, a licensed professional counselor, is here to help. Jon has more than 30 years of professional experience, helping people deal with the issues that keep them emotionally and spiritually stuck. There is help. There really is hope. There is a God who loves you, who wants to help you find peace and strength. And Jon Uhler is here to help you find that on this edition of Journey to Healing.
Well, welcome back, everyone. My name is Jon Uhler. This is Journey to Healing, and I'm back with my special guest and collaborator, Diana W. Warlyndi, as she is called on her channel. Diana, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for doing this. You and I are introducing a new model. It's called IHC, Internal Healing and Collaboration. And it is, we think, the model that people need, that trauma survivors need, but especially for those that have undergone the most horrific of sadistic abuse.
Yes.
And that will involve satanic ritual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started to introduce some of that, and we will kind of walk our way through a number of video clips to help people understand really what are we talking about. Is it a real thing? Hopefully most people now understand because of the release of the Epstein files that there are high-level groups that do get into very dark spiritual stuff and eventually satanic stuff. If we think Jeffrey Epstein had nothing better to do than to build a temple on his island, and his island is really not all that attractive. It doesn't look like Gilligan's Island.
It really isn't.
It doesn't look like a resort.
Yeah.
And so what was it that drew people there? Jeffrey Epstein not only was a charlatan, but he was well paid as a charlatan. You know, he was probably a fixer. His whole thing was getting blackmail material on people. Mm-hmm. A precursor to that was the Finders. We'll talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, he had connections and was able to make connections, and then he himself had his own agenda Eugenics. That's where the Zorro Ranch stuff comes in. And most people hopefully have heard now that there were references to murders going on at the Zorro Ranch. They're apparently doing excavation now at Zorro Ranch, maybe too little too late. The one in New Mexico.
I believe it's been sold and someone else bought it. Someone from Texas, I think.
Yeah. So for people to understand and really have an appreciation for and really be able to grasp the level of abuse that we're describing, that you yourself were subjected to, but what others will that need help, that there's a group out there, a population of people that not only in graduate schools of counseling, that we as therapists are ill prepared for because we've never heard of this, number one. It's a disservice to people that have gone through this degree of trauma. And then the general public needs to understand so that they can have an appreciation for the need to hold people accountable, perpetrators accountable, but also to support survivors, because there are naysayers out there, especially in the LGBTQ realm. We've referenced Matt Osborne, Sierra Weir, that are hell-bent, as it were, to get their hands on or access kids. And that should concern all of us. And then there are fraudulent people that people should be able to trust, such as there are fake pastors. Referenced my former ministry partner, Jimmy Hinton. He's a fraud. And so you have people, and then within the counseling realm, there are people, especially the survivor community. There are frauds out there that are harming people, and the survivors are never going to find help. And so, Diana, you have collaborated with me. We're doing this together. It's a collaborative work. And because of your hard work, coming to understand your internal system, your internal world, you have really experienced the benefits of what we're trying to help people understand, to be able to go through their own process of healing, their own journey to healing.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on what I've shared? And then we will start our video. We'll just kind of work our way through it to help people understand what exactly are we talking about when it comes to satanic ritual abuse.
No, I'll just let you take it away and we'll go from there, because I'm sure your explanation is going to explain SRA way better than I will.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, where we left off last time was actually right there. We had introduced in this ongoing, and I purposely leave up the thumbnails so people can kind of see, right? But we had sort of introduced showing there's a lot of YouTube videos out there. We're actually going to see clips from this, but it's a real thing, this issue of not just child trafficking, but people that have gotten into gaining power and other things from harming children at this level. And then we introduced the idea of we're helping people understand that this is a real thing, as most of us now know. So I will now switch the screen. Thank you. Okay, so we introduced last time just to help people understand that this is a real thing, right? That the case out in Utah at very high levels. So here was a county district attorney that he himself was implicated in this stuff. And one of the interviews that he gave actually has been entered in as evidence, and somebody was asking him, do you think it's a real thing? Do you think this ritualistic abuse, satanic ritual abuse, is a real thing?
And was asked if he thought ritualistic sex abuse was real. He went on to describe Hamblin and his own accuser, calling her a victim.
Do I think that occurs? Yeah, I think it occurs. I know some victims of it. Yeah, I know some victims of it. I was not in a position to prosecute it. Who was into Native American stuff? He'd kill deer and get deer hearts and drink their blood and drink the deer's blood.
How do you silence kids who've been used in ritualistic abuse?
These clips are now evidence in that case.
How do you train a dog to roll over when it's time to roll over? You know, you do it by giving a reward and repetition.
Perpetrators will assert,
Diana, let me stop for a moment.
Sure.
What does that do to you when you hear that? It says, how do you train a dog? Right? When
Oh, what does it do to me? I just go, yeah, that's exactly how they do it. Reward and punishment. It's the Pavlovian behaviorism model. I think Pavlov trained the dog to salivate with either punishment or reward. And what was it, Skinner? He did those experiments, literally dropping babies, to alter their behavior. So, yeah, just in my own personal experience, I mean, there's more to it, but that's basically the simplicity of it. If you follow orders and do what you're told, no matter how heinous or awful, you're rewarded. Even though you might be being abused, you're rewarded for doing it by not having a worse experience. And if you refuse to do it, you'll get the worse experience, which will, I don't know how graphic you want to get here, but let's say a man is about to rape you. You're 4 years old and you resist them. They might tase you or pinch you or just do other worse things, make you watch someone else be abused or killed or raped. And so you get to a point after once or twice or 3 times, however long your will can last out, that you just give in, say, okay, rape me. Let's get this over with. Because it's the lesser of two evils. And you just begin to accept, okay, it's what I got to do. And you push your emotions away, because if you begin to cry, you might get slapped or tased or various different things. If you start yelling and shouting back, resisting, same thing, a worse punishment. And so as you approach that same incident again and again and again, if you resist or if you cry or whatever, it will be worse for you. So you accept the lesser of two evils. And it's just the way it is, and all sorts of scenarios are introduced, such as taking someone you love, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, and they'll hurt them until you comply. So that's, reward and punishment. And if you get to that point of compliance and you do that without resistance, without crying, you shut your emotions down to handle it, then afterwards they might take you to get an iced cream because you complied all the way through. Or the reward might be that I've read this in other survivors' books, and it's very intentional, that after the abuse, another person will come in and hold you and comfort you and love you. And so you begin to believe that the only way to get a physical hug or love or the positive emotions, I must go through this negative, awful, evil thing to get love. And that's done intentionally. So reward and punishment.
And so hopefully people that are unfamiliar with or just now starting to think about the idea of internal compartmentalization or splitting or whatever term we want to use, that parts, hopefully now people can begin to understand how parts are involuntarily created on the part of the survivor. And these perpetrators know that you reach a certain threshold of terror that you're perpetrating upon this child, and they're going to split, as it were. So
your mind shuts down, or you find a place to hide within yourself. Or when I was very, 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 very little, I would go and lay on God's lap for safety. And as I'm not in my body, a new blank slate is there, and the perpetrators create the personality they want, be it a sex slave, okay, rape me, or whatever they want. There's all sorts of different personalities they can create. But when you get to that overwhelmed point and cannot take any more, you will leave your body in one form or another. You know, one survivor talks about going within themselves. For me, I always left my body. As a very, very, very little girl, like 3 years old, I'd go and lay on God's lap. But by the time I was 5 years old, I would just leave my body and be standing there observing the abuse. But you can have two consciences going on at the same time, because you're outside of your body observing what's happening to you, but you're also in your body and a new personality is being created. And that personality might only have a lifespan of 30 minutes or 3 hours. So, yeah.
You know, when you say lifespan, meaning
the time span of the abuse, to where this new personality is having the abuse done to them. It could be in I hate to say quick, but a quick 30-minute little, my father needs to relieve his sexual desires, and that might last 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. Or you can be in a black mass, and that lasts for 12 hours. And in that 12 hours, you could split, and have 30 different parts, because it lasted 12 hours. Because the abuse, as you move through time, you can handle so much, and then you leave again. And you have another blank slate that's created. And then this one handles so much, gets into an overload, and that one leaves. And I don't want people to think that you've got 50 different astral bodies. You don't. It's just that one. You've got a blank slate. They've created a personality. This one goes into overwhelm, shuts off, and another blank slate is created. They create a new personality. This one gets overloaded. That one shuts off, and another new personality gets created. Or if new and different torture devices are introduced, okay, I can handle and deal with this particular weapon. Now we're going to introduce another one, and you switch because you don't know how to handle that new thing anymore. You figured out how to deal with this one weapon for a while, and now you're going to introduce a whole nother element here. Okay, I can't deal with that, so another blank slate. You split, and you get another blank slate, and they create this personality. Then another torture device is introduced, or a scenario in the environment, or instead of being a victim for the first half of it, they might want you to now be a perpetrator and hurt someone else. Well, that's a whole nother element in itself. And, you kind of adapt to and get used to what's happening, and the introduction of new things makes that one go away and another blank slate come up. Another new element, switch, another blank slate comes up. So the lifespan of a part, I have some parts that have lifespans that are only 2 minutes long.
are you saying that they're no longer there, or the parts died, or when you say
No,
lifespan?
they got pushed down because I can't handle this anymore. And okay, another blank slate. I can't handle this, we'll push that one down. Another blank slate, another torture is introduced, or something in the environment is changing, or you're required to now abuse another child. Child harming another child. Well, okay, I push that down, another blank slate comes up.
So
That's
these separate and distinct parts then were there for a brief period of time, but now they are pushed down.
Yes, yes. I guess I said that wrong earlier. You don't leave the body. The core personality. I never thought about this before, but yeah. As a little girl, I would leave my body and go sit on God's lap. But it's also pushed down in a way. And then when the abuse or abuses are over and things calm down and you're back home and you get to go to sleep or switch and have to go to school, then I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. The switching takes place because when you used,
It
I
does.
just wanted people
in and
to.
out when you need it. Yeah.
There we go.
Because if you've been up all night through an abuse and now you got to go to school at 8 o'clock the next day, you've got to switch personalities, and the part that goes to school is not tired, is not upset, does not feel any pain because you can't. You can't express it. So the part that goes to school is another part that learned how to be at school, do well in school, even though you've had no sleep, maybe no food, and your body hurts. All the parts that experience the pain are pushed down and away, and this new part that goes to school doesn't feel the pain because the other parts are holding it inside, pushed down. All you know is you're at school and you have to learn and do good.
And that part of school is amnesic to what just happened the night before, even though there may be pains and things. And that's the profound nature of this degree of sadistic abuse, very purposeful, repetitive, hence ritualistic. So the term ritual can be both just in terms of it happens repeatedly, but then religious ritualistic.
Yes, yes. Which is the introduction of the black robes, the candles, the symbology all over the place. There could be pentagrams, which most people can relate to, upside down pentagrams, but there's a lot more to it than that. There's sigils that could be carved into the floor. There's the candle itself could be black or red or white. There's occultic elements introduced. Not introduced, there's occultic elements that are used because the people buying them and putting them in this environment to be used are using them for the purpose of satanic worship. So each item has a significance. In the same way, I guess, I'm not super familiar with going to regular Christian churches, but I know in the altars, there's certain things there and they each have a significance. Well, Satanists do the same thing. So, yeah, I forgot what your question was.
That's okay. Especially focusing on, you had used the term, they have a life expectancy, so to speak, or they're around. So they don't die off. The parts of you don't die off. They just get suppressed and they're down there.
They get pushed down in a way.
That's right.
They never go away, ever, because they were created on a blank slate and they only know their lifespan. Like I said, the time span of their life could vary. Or you create a part that, can handle rape. And there's 3 different kinds of rape, 3 different parts of the body. And for me, I have a different part for each different type of rape. One could handle the mouth, etc., etc. And so the next time, let's say a week later or 3 days later or whatever, it comes time for this particular type of rape, well, that part that experienced it before and knows how to deal with it will rise. My consciousness will go down. They'll come out and handle it because they know how to handle it. And when it's over, then they will, okay, my job's done. I'm not being raped anymore. They'll go down and the next part will come up. That could be your core personality because there's nothing else happening after that and you just go to sleep. Or it could be, okay, the vaginal rape part goes down and now the anal part comes out and handles that. And then that goes away when there's an oral rape, or that goes away when now I have to perform an evil act on someone else. They just switch places. Each one knows how to handle it. So one part that could have been created in, say, a 30-minute time period can be accessed throughout your entire life. So I could be with my husband now today, and I could have a part come up that's the vaginal part. I'm trying not to be too graphic here. And it will get triggered when I'm with my husband, and I have to talk to that part in my head and say, it's okay, open your eyes. Because I have a habit, I want to keep my eyes closed from these rapes. I didn't want to see it. And so when I'm with my husband, I have a tendency to want to keep my eyes closed and I'll say, it's okay, open your eyes, look at your environment. Who are you here with? Where are we? When are we? It's the year 2026. This is our husband, Chris. And they'll go, oh, that's right. Okay, thank you. And they relax and go back down. They're not being hurt. So they'll still pop their head up. And I'll feel a little bit of anxiety. And I notice it and I address it internally while I'm intimate with my husband. He's got no idea this is going on. And we just work with each other, collaborating, but it's not like before I could be with my husband, before I did my healing work, and this part, the sexualized part, would go, oh, well, let's up the game and let's add toys. And so another part would take over that likes toys. Or another part would take over and say, yeah, let's strap my arms to the bed. And so a BDSM part would come in. And so there's this cascade of events that happens, but that doesn't happen anymore. I feel like I just went down a weird rabbit hole.
No, but you know what? And that's part of, as you and I continue to add these additional parts, as we continue to pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
I think one of the nice things about this is, though we have sort of a general outline, if we spontaneously begin to talk about another aspect of it, I think it's excellent.
Sure. Yeah.
So let me ask this. Talk about a spontaneous. We're going to kind of hang a right just for a moment and
Okay.
talk about talking about this, but this will be extremely important. Diana, you just referenced about intimacy with your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also, and last time you mentioned, and I was sort of throwing you softballs as far as, are you psychotic? Are you on heavy duty meds? And you addressed that last time. The answer is no.
No.
And your relationship with your husband is better than it ever has been. And I know
yeah,
you two have only been together for what, about 6 months, is it?
21 years.
Okay, 21 years. So any of us that have had long-term relationships, if something can be better at year 20 or 21 than at the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
Excuse me. That doesn't happen by accident. So in the midst of your healing, to think that your relationship with your husband is improving and you're not on heavy-duty psychotropics. As a matter of fact, you're on no psychotropics.
No medicine. It's just vitamins and minerals.
So again, this speaks to this process, our model, which is working on internal healing and then helping the parts collaborate. So you just mentioned how in the bedroom things get triggered.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, speak to that for a moment, because then I'm also going to have you speak to a concern that I've addressed out there, which is, and it goes part and parcel with the radical LGBTQ stuff that also has pushed the trans deception, which is the idea of sex therapists who suggest that BDSM can be a helpful thing. So, give your thoughts on your
Well, I
own
was
that
just thinking
process.
I had never thought about that before, but okay, so my husband and I could, begin our intimacy and start in a normal fashion before my healing. And then because in a ritual, you can start off normal and then the perpetrator wants to up it. So, okay, let's introduce toys. Then they're going to want to up it again and let's introduce BDSM. And they're going to want to up it again and introduce homosexuality. So the perpetrator is always upping the ante in the sexual area. So I could be intimate with my husband and my parts, because they're trained that this is the sequence of events. That's why this part with the normal sex, so to speak, would the part where the next upping the ante came in and say, well, I'm supposed to come in next, so let me come in next. And so this part would go away, and then with the toys would be present. And then this part would be like, well, aren't we supposed to up the ante to BDSM? So it's not that I was consciously doing it. It's just that the ideas were there. My husband had his own stuff going on because he was a veteran in Europe, went to Amsterdam. So he had certain things and he would request them and I would go, oh, okay, switch, next level, switch, next level, switch, next level, because I had learned all that as a child. But now, when I went through my healing, I talked to my husband and said, I'm not going there anymore. I want normal, heart-to-heart loving sex, lovemaking. That's what I've always wanted. And it took us a while to adjust. During the hard, heavy part of my healing, I didn't even want to have sex. And I said that to him once. I said, quite frankly, Cliff, if I never had sex again another day in my life, I'd be happy. But I'm his wife, and he needs his needs met. And so I would pleasure him. And then over time, as I relaxed and knew that I was safe, and I'm going to introduce another idea here as well, is the part that could handle regular sex wasn't trying to up the ante because that part knew I disapproved. And so they didn't get suppressed or squashed or ignored. But I discovered after a while that those ones that wanted toys or BDSM or whatever found relief that they didn't have to perform anymore because they didn't really care for it then. And they were okay with it now because they had to be okay with it. But they were like, oh my God, we don't have to exist anymore. And I said, well, I don't want you to go away or disappear. But this particular type of lovemaking is unnecessary for us to have pleasure with our husband. And so they're the ones that generally will come up and go, they get a little, and I said, look, it's open your eyes. This is Chris. We're here in our home. There's no pain involved. And so it's just these little conversations that I have with them while I'm with my husband. He's got no idea what's going on in my head. But they realized, wow, we can have intimate relations with our husband without having to do this stuff. And I go, yeah. So they just had a general, wow, we don't have to have all the pain and all this crazy. I'm like, no, we don't. And so they are now learning how to enjoy sex without those things and without the thoughts popping into their head and without the thinking, well, he's going to expect that. And then because he doesn't anymore, because I put the boundary out there. So there's not even an expectation of it. So I never put this in words before, John, but I'm just thinking about it.
This is important. This is so important, Diana.
But they are learning that sex can be good, it can be pleasurable, that there does not have to be pain or outside accoutrements or other people, and that because we've read the Bible, that a man and woman are supposed to be together, not a man and a man or a woman and a woman or 3 people or 5 people or orgies, all that. So they're learning this is how God made it. And I go, yeah. It's supposed to be just a man, a husband and a wife, really, not even a man and a woman, because you're supposed to be married. And because we are married, they're like, wow, that's cool. I will say, though, it's been, a couple of years, and I would say the first year, I would pleasure him just so that he could not have that pent-up energy. But now, I'm okay with him pleasuring me. And I've noticed that I've gone from a state of kind of numbness or tiny little response. That is now, as the trust for Chris is building, my body is slowly, it's less and less numb, and it's responding, and my heart is opening more and more and more. So it's not just a physical denumbing, if that's a word, but also a heart softening. And the realization that sex does not have to involve pain or other people or other objects or fear, that it can be nice and sweet and loving. And Chris has his own, hardening of his heart for his reasons. But I think as mine softens and opens, his is as well. And he's not really doing any healing work. But I think he reacted to my closedness by being closed. But now that I'm more open and receptive, he subconsciously is now more open and receptive. So it's just, it's a lot of dynamics going on. And I think within the bounds of marriage, there's a level of safety there that I never had before. I just thought of something and I went blank. So I'll let you take it from here.
What would you say to those that, again, from our perspective, IHC, Internal Healing Collaboration Model, what we are putting together now, it's similar to IFS, but a little bit different.
Yeah.
It certainly IHC comes from a Christian perspective. As a matter of fact, you just highlighted something, the exclusivity in marriage and what that has allowed to happen. IFS doesn't come from a Christian perspective, so they don't really espouse that. As a matter of fact, and again, we're not exclusive. We're just helping people understand from a biblical and Christian worldview.
There's depth levels.
There you go.
It's dynamic. What I was going to say was, I remembered what that thought was. I created a worship song and I sing it every day at various different places and times and things. But there was a point where my husband and I became intimate, and we were chest to chest, which is not comfortable for either one of us, but we're getting there. I heard my worship song going off in my head and I got confused and I thought, well, does this mean I'm having sex with Jesus? Or no, Chris is the head of the household, so Jesus covers him and Chris covers me. And I remember you and I had a session about this and I was all freaked out. I'm like, am I having sex with Jesus? What's happening here? And you explained to me, no, that's not what's going on. And so now that still happens to me when I feel my heart opening. I think it's my parts inside are singing the worship song because they want the presence of God there with us, to know that it's sanctioned and God approves of this joining, this union.
The two shall become one.
Yes, I never understood what that meant until now. And I still don't think I fully understand it, but there is the presence of God there in that moment between a husband and a wife. I don't know that that would be present with someone you're just living with. I don't want to degrade that in any way. People live together and they love each other. But the bond of marriage, that covenant that you make with each other before God, has an effect. It makes a difference. And I believe that's probably why God wants you to be married before you have sex, so that union can be pure and clean and godly, the presence of God there, not just fulfilling of lustful desires and the flesh wants what it wants. The presence of God is not there. So I think marriage matters. I do. And, I didn't learn that till I was like, what? And it's been 22 years. We just had our anniversary.
Well, Diana, I'm thinking of the verse, they were naked and unashamed.
Yes, yes. And I also, you and I've talked about this as well in terms of intimacy with Chris, is that Chris we'd be together and he'd say, oh, we'll do this. And my parts would get worked up or blocked up. I don't want to be giving commands. We're not in that situation anymore. I don't need commands. And so I finally worked up the courage to ask Chris. I said, can you just be silent? And he kind of took that the wrong way and he thought that he couldn't utter any sound. And I said, no, I said, I just don't want any commands. Don't tell me what to do. Excuse me. And so he followed that. And after a few more times, I realized that I could just give what I wanted to give when I wanted to give it in the way I wanted to give it. I didn't have to fulfill someone's orders. The act of giving was opened my heart more, in that I'm not a sex slave. I don't have to respond to your orders. That was a whole nother component connected with sex, is following orders. And you don't do anything on your own in your way. You do what they want you to do. And to ask Chris to just not do that, and he stopped, allowed me to figure out, what do I want to give to him? I know what makes you happy. We've been together for 22 years, so, but excuse me, but I get to do what I want in the order that I want, in the way that I want. That freedom made a big difference too. So, but it took me a while to ask him, could you just not give me commands? And for him, it wasn't that he was commanding me. He was just asking for what he wanted. And I realized that triggers me. It makes my sex slave want to come out. I don't want my sex slave out. I want my wife out. So don't do this thing because it's helpful to me. He refrained to the point where he made no noise at all. I said, well, you can breathe a certain way or moan, whatever. But I said, it's just the verbal commands I can't deal with. But yeah, so that took a while to destimulate. And now my parts are all the sex slaves that live inside of me. Like, wow, cool. We can give them what we want when we want. And so like maybe one or two parts would do their thing. And I'm noticing now that, well, this one learned a certain level skill that I think he might enjoy. Not involving toys or BS or whatever, but so just as time goes on, the parts that are, sexualized can bring their skills to the table, if you will. And other parts are singing the worship song because I'm with my husband and this is approved by God. The presence of God is with us. It's just everybody's kind of working together. I don't know how to explain it.
And so significant healing is taking place at the deepest level.
Yeah. And my husband and I the two become one in the presence of God. I never would have imagined, because in satanic rituals, in these sexualized situations and all situations, the satanic element's always there, and they love to put Jesus figures in there or call upon God, and they're calling upon their pagan God. But as a little girl, you don't know the difference. God is God. So in a ritual, the presence of God means the presence of Satan. And you're also seeing Jesus there. But now, as Chris and I are together, I can tell the difference between the real God, the presence of God. I'm not communicating this very well.
No, you are. And if you see my eyes, you've just jogged my memory. I'm going to queue up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Because you have to, the parts need to vent off their anger, their terror, their sadness about those sexualized incidents. How dare you make me believe I'm being raped by Jesus? How dare you make me believe that God is present in this heinous moment? But that's what the part believes. And so as you're older and you're with your boyfriend or husband or whatever, those parts can't open their heart to either your partner, your husband, or to God, because God hurt me. God had sex with me and there was pain. God is pain. Sex is pain. And your body physiologically responds to that. Your body will orgasm to pain because it's been Pavlovian conditioned to do so intentionally. And so being with Chris now, I don't really reach that same type or level of orgasm, but I'm noticing as my numbness is disappearing, there's small, little gentle orgasm that is each time a little bit more of a zing. You know what I mean? So I think as the parts can experience a natural orgasm without pain connected to it, over time, it will never be that firework crazy show that involved electricity or toys or whatever. But God is retraining my body to come out of the numbness and showing me this can be natural and pleasant. And maybe this is the level that you ultimately get to. I feel like I'm kind of like right here, you know? So it's a slow progression there, but I'm happy with it, you know? So
That speaks to the similarities between IFS and IHC, so trauma-informed therapy.
yeah,
And for a trauma survivor, they have a very difficult time being fully emotionally
just present.
present in the moment. That's right.
Because
So
the parts want to come up and perform.
that's right.
That's what they do.
Or even tuck away.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to play a clip. Actually, a couple have come to mind, and we will watch one of those. One clip that came to mind that we'll save was right out of the Epstein files, one of the emails that he sent, and then somebody he received, somebody saying, or maybe as a matter of fact, I think it was Epstein that was saying about an incident of abuse that was perpetrated upon a kid, saying that a child was praying that God would save her. And so Epstein is suggesting that a perpetrator next time dress up as Jesus while he's abusing her. Okay.
Joe Rogan, the most popular podcast in the world, has had on multiple guests over the past several weeks, filling out details around this same subject matter.
Yeah, there's all sorts.
Did you see the thing in the Epstein files?
Oh yeah, like those,
they
those
ordered
Epstein files. In fact, I can't believe that. Like everybody just kind of like, oh, well, okay, and they're moving on with their lives.
Well,
going on in your normal
people are waiting
lives.
for a condensed version that lays out all the facts. It's the people that are like really interested in reading all the emails.
I think the Luciferians cast a spell on the world. And,
for real?
Oh, absolutely. It's just like how vampires can't go into a house unless they're invited. They tell you, what's going on ahead of time. It's predictive programming. And once you say it out loud and you put it out there and make fun of it and do a little skit like Stephen Colbert did a little skit on his show where, oh, here's a baby. I'm going to take this baby and I'm going to give it to Moloch. And he goes into like a cloudy red, furnace and hands the baby over and he's, oh, the baby's going to be fine. And they make a joke about it and the audience laughs. Okay, we're all now conditioned to it. And in fact, mundus vult decipi, ergo decipiatur. It's a long known concept. And so in Latin, mundus vult decipi means the world wants to be deceived. Ergo decipiatur, therefore it is. We want to be deceived. We don't want to believe the horrors that are actually behind the veil.
Well, I think with the Epstein files, people are, because of these emails that have been released, people are just now starting to be aware of the bizarreness of the code and some of the things, like the facts. Like, let's just talk about the sulfuric acid. So this was like right after he was indicted in 2018.
Yeah, I got to get rid of some bodies.
Yeah.
I got to
How much did
dissolve up some bodies.
What did it say? He ordered 6 drums of sulfuric acid right away. Are you really worried about your reverse osmosis plant right after you get indicted? I feel like you're going to jail.
It looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck.
It's probably a duck. 330 gallons of sulfuric acid.
It says this was the only documented purchase order for it.
Well, I just don't think we really knew until we saw those files come out.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, well, there's no denying it now. My position on it is completely shifted. I thought there's probably some really sick people that have an appetite for that, but I hadn't seen any real evidence for it until these files. And now I'm like, oh, this is demonic. This is clearly demonic.
Okay, so thank you for saying that. I'm somebody who was raised a Christian and went to Bible school and that kind of stuff as a kid, and youth groups, and then growing up in Central Coast of California, let's say, veered in different ways. Mm-hmm. But the experiences that we've encountered over the last half a dozen years, it's hard to come up with a language to express what we're observing in the world other than the language of theology.
There's these references to pizza, a lot of references to pizza that are 100% some kind of a code.
Yeah.
And then it brings you back to Pizzagate.
Yeah.
and which was widely dismissed. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Oh, this is a bunch of kooks." Here it is. She said she felt God's presence next to her when she was in bed. She knows that Jesus watches over her and he helped save her life. And then he writes, "Whoops." And then in response, Jeffrey Epstein says, "You should dress up as him when you see her."
Diana, with these perpetrators, since they introduce, I mean, it's bad enough that they're raping someone, they're committing sexual offenses, heinous crimes, but they're doing so with intentionality, and then they up things. They're going to up the pain.
Up the ante with pain, with anything and everything. Honestly, I think to defile God, Jesus, and the Bible in every possible way that they can.
That's right.
Because they have such an affront, and it's because I think sexual addiction, correct me if I'm wrong, but and porn works this way. You start at a certain level, you know, the teenage babysitter, and porn will lead you down more and more and more. And so a man or a woman's body is not going to respond at this level anymore. They got to up it because they need something different and something new. And it keeps getting upped and upped and upped until people are watching bestiality or a snuff film. And so part of the satanic rituals are also filming these things for people to watch porn, to lead them there. It's just always a progression, and they up the ante all the time. And it's to feed that carnal, fleshly, selfish desires. And I think that the idea of doing something that's an affront to God and crossing that line is what causes them to have a better orgasm, I guess, because it's not just sexual and physical. There's also that psychological line you're crossing. Oh my God, look at me. Look what I can do. And God's not striking me dead. Right?
That's what perpetrators do. Sex offenders in the most heinous of way. And these,
but they've always got to up the ante, because what they did last week, they're doing it again. But instead of having an orgasm at this level, they're only going here. So I got to do something worse than this to get my orgasm back up there. And do it again. Oh, now I'm only here. Let me do something worse and get it back up there. They are training their body to need worse and worse violence, worse and worse defiling of somebody else, worse and worse of an affront to God. And that's what's done in these rituals. And you'll see it in the different players in the ritual, because you've got leaders, you got middle people, and someone new to the cult. Well, they need to pull this guy up to be just as depraved as the head honcho, right? And in Satanism, there's also competition. And just because you're feeding your carnal, fleshly, sinful nature, they compete with each other. Who can be worse with each other?
Yeah.
And you've got these victims having to receive this competition of who can be worse. And so everything, the ante's always upped. And it goes to more and more defiling. And worse things. The introduction of animals, or just, I know the average person can't imagine it, but an SRA survivor can.
We're going to help. We're going to help bring a person along that is learning, who's not a victim. That's why we're doing this series, partly to help people understand when they hear the term satanic ritual abuse, to understand that, number one, it's a real thing. It is a thing. And then
Yeah.
what do they mean by, when they hear the term, what do people mean by ritualistic abuse and satanic ritual abuse? So we're kind of easing the viewer into really understanding part of what's in the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Quite
Yeah.
frankly.
God knows what went on there,
Okay, well,
And they
there's
love to
enough
do this
stuff.
Yeah, and they love to do this stuff in basements, in tunnels, in caves, in caverns, in darkness, out of the eye shot of normal people, because they know what they're doing is wrong. And they know if godly people see them, they're done.
That's
You
right.
know,
So
imagine a godly man, his child is abducted, goes and finds her in this ritual. That man would probably slaughter everybody in there. Rightly so. But I don't know why I went there. But
no, and to help people understand, and
it's
I'll
so heinous. It's every perversion imaginable, and they all feed off each other's ideas. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let me
and
use
demonically inspired ideas.
demonically inspired
ideas.
Yes.
And to help people understand that you and I both really do know what we're talking about, you having been on the receiving end of heinous sexual crimes, and me having worked with the worst of the worst kind of sexual predators, including the Jeffrey Dahmer kind, and those that have want to eat human flesh. We worked with them.
Some Satanists cannot get off until they're murdering someone.
Yeah.
That's their threshold is they need to slice someone's neck in order to they can't orgasm without murder. That's what a whole snuff film's all about. And then, okay, now slicing the neck isn't enough. Let me dismember you or whatever. It's always they up the ante, up the ante, up the ante.
Right. And
some anxiety here.
Right. Well, we're talking about very real stuff, and hopefully people are beginning to have their eyes open with the Epstein files that have come out. And if someone wants to learn about the kind of individuals that would do this kind of stuff, I did a series on how you make a sexual predator that comes out of my years of working with sex offenders and sexually violent predators. And so on the screen right now, they'll be able to see where to go and view that, because we're talking about this kind of individual. There's a lot of different kinds of sexual predators, but the most sophisticated are the ones that do this kind of thing when they do it together, because they have to collaboratively. It's like what Epstein did. If you think he had a temple on there because he was a religious individual in an upstanding kind of way, you're a buffoon.
Yeah. Well, and that was a pagan temple. It was a pagan temple. That wasn't,
right?
God doesn't ask you to make temples for him.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to show a clip that was off the, let's see if I can bring it up here. I will. I think it's Sean Ryan. And Tim Tebow was recently on his program. And so we will hear Tim Tebow talking about child rescue and Diana, the kind of stuff you were subjected to as well.
You'd mentioned a specific satanic cult.
That was the story of a friend of ours that fights in this space maybe 3-4 weeks ago was telling us, and this is a story from Texas, and it was a 13-year-old girl that was being, while someone would stand there and read the Bible to her. And then they would rotate and somebody else would come in, read the Bible while she would be going through this horrible evil. And part of the reason that it was believed that they were doing this is so that the worst moment of her life would be associated with God's word. And that's a lot of evil.
Dana, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's very common. Because Satan, excuse me, I'm putting my cigarette out.
It's okay.
Satan doesn't want you anywhere near God, Jesus, or the Bible, or truth. He wants your heart closed down. He wants you in hell with him. So if he can keep you away from just the Bible, because the Bible will lead you to God and Jesus. So if he can keep you away from the Bible, I mean, for me, I remember it's like maybe 15, I tried to read the Bible. I think I got through Exodus and I didn't get it. I couldn't absorb what I was reading. And I've been an avid reader my whole life, even as a teenager. And then I think again, early in my relationship with Chris, I got a new Bible. I thought, well, maybe I need a different type of translation. And I read the New Testament, still didn't get it. And it's like, what? Am I stupid? What? Christianity doesn't mean anything. I'm reading this, I don't get it. What's the big deal? It wasn't until I had my conversion moment. My husband baptized me, and I had my conversion moment, a supernatural experience with Jesus. Then when I opened up the Bible, God could show me. I could read a word like Sinaic for Sinai, the Sinaic covenant. I remember reading that. But what I heard in my head was sinful covenant. And I'm going, what? We're talking about God and the people there? It's Sinaic, not sinful. So the parts that had that read to them, the people that read the Bible will change the words. So just
the perpetrators will change.
The perpetrators will change the words, but you see them with the Bible. So you perceive those are the words in the Bible. And 40 years later, as you're trying to read it, or 10 years later, whatever, the part will feed you what was fed to them. Because it's so ingrained, because it was placed in there under such pain and duress and psychological terror. It's just encapsulated in your brain that way. So by them doing that with the Bible, first, it just keeps you from approaching the Bible at all and thinking that Christianity is just another religion to control the public, to control the populace. And what does Marx say? That religion is the opioid of the masses. So Christianity is just another one of those. So let me try looking for God somewhere else. I'll try the New Age. Let me try solid Scientology. I had someone interview me about 3-4 years ago, and I was giving her kind of the history of my life. And I went into the New Age. I went into Scientology. I did this, did that. And I said, I was just looking for something. And she says, well, what do you think that was? And I'd never thought about it before, but I realized I was looking for God, for peace and rest and the real God. But because I couldn't look at Christianity or approach the Bible, or the times I did approach it and didn't understand it and thought it was just all BS anyway, because I'm smart, I can read words, but I'm not getting it, so it must be crap. Let me try the New Age. Let me try Scientology. Let me try different religion shopping to find the answer. Because as a very little girl, and it's not just one time that they do it to you. You could have this done to you 500 times before you're even an adult. It just causes a wall there. They want you to be a Satanist. They want you to be like them. And if you're not like them, then you're going to be a slave to them and for them. Anything except God, Jesus, and the Bible. They need to keep you away from there. And so you just wind up lost because all of it's suppressed. You're amnesic to what happened. But so your front person will say, I want to read the Bible. This is supposed to be important. It's supposed to be the most important book on the planet. Why can't I understand this? It's because as I'm consciously reading it, these parts that had certain words read in certain ways take over the conscious reception of it and turn it and twist it into what they were taught. Oh yeah, I remember hearing that sinful covenant, even though I'm reading Satanic covenant. Is that the right word, covenant?
Yeah, no,
I don't know why. So
yeah.
right now my brain just fried. No, is that commitment, covenant? Wait, no, that's just what happened right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, these rituals are.
Well, it's referencing Mount Sinai, so the Ten Commandments and the covenant, the promises.
The Sinai covenant, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But, so the mind, it plays tricks on you and you're unaware of it. If you're not healing yourself with God, you're not gonna, you're just not gonna be able to fix that stuff. Because my husband baptized me, I had my conversion moment. Okay, I need to read the Bible. And so I'm reading it, but not getting it. And then I could talk to you in session. What's going on with me? Why is this word popping up in that one? Whatever. And I realized, oh, that must be an experience I had where someone twisted that word while they were reading the Bible. And they'll do that a lot. They will reverse words and they'll do it so that it sounds similar. Satanic, sinful. Just enough to screw your head up about it. So I had a part inside me that thought that covenant God made with the people of Israel at the Mount Sinai was sinful. Until I remembered, oh, this thing happened. They read the Bible, inserted that word. And as I'm reading it, that part's going, well, they told me it was sinful. And I'm going, I know what they told you, but I want you to look at each letter. Does that say sinful? Well, no, it doesn't. I said, it says Satanic. What does Satanic mean? Mount Sinai with the IC, Access my grammar and English lessons, Sinai, Mount Sinai, the Sinaic. And she went, it doesn't say sinful, does it? And I go, no, it doesn't. So it'll slow you down while you're reading the Bible for sure. But it's a level of deprogramming that I was completely unaware of until I read it in that book, the Bible, the thing that was used in that ritual. And I saw it. And you see the word Bible on it, and it's black. They love the black Bible. So I guess it matches their robes or Satan, because they got black hearts, whatever. They like black. And so just even that color symbology affects you. The first Bible I got after Chris baptized me, I got it green because I love plants. So I got a green Bible. It's not black, So that just different things will affect you. If I had a black Bible, I would probably not want to approach it because we got a bunch here and they're black. This is Chris's Bible right here. It's massive and it's black.
And it's black.
Intimidate the heck out of me.
Yeah.
It's massive. He got it handed down to him from his stepdad. But anyway, so it's color, it's sound, it's so many different things. Or you'll see a lot of pictures on the internet of Bibles with a candle near it, glowing. Well, in satanic rituals, there's candles all over the place and they're reading the Bible. So even a picture like that could cause someone to go, oh, Christianity's just bullshit, you know? It's just so, it's like an octopus with a million legs. And you've got to address each little piece of the pie to untangle it. You know, the first time I went through the Bible, I destimulated and untangled secular worldly things. The next time I went through it, I detangled, the next level was things done in certain rituals. And then the third time I read the Bible, just every once in a while, I'd have a word issue. I'd read the word, but I would hear the negative reversed word. So, yeah. Anyway, I could go on for a while.
Well, we are talking.
It has to be destimulated and addressed and looked at.
Right.
If you don't address that piece of the pie, you're not getting all of it. And to only address 50% of your trauma, yeah, that's great. You're going to get some healing and some relief, but you're never going to realize your full potential until you address that other piece, the spiritual piece, the Bible, God, Jesus, Christianity. So.
And that's what sets IHC apart, right? We come from a Christian perspective, a biblical perspective, and a survivor has been harmed at the deepest of levels. And depending upon the degree and really the nature and the kind of perpetrator, a wide variety of perpetrators, but those that cause the most harm have harmonized with evil the most intensively. And so inevitably what you're going to find is they have integrated satanic stuff and
principles and ideologies. Yeah. And they are, as that part is being abused, it's the blank slate they created. You switch, this one gets submerged. This one that is submerged is encapsulated. Imagine it in just an impenetrable wall or bubble or cube or whatever it's in. And it has every single defilement of God, Jesus, and the Bible encapsulated in there with it. Every, all of your senses, your sight, sound, smell, touch, feel, temperature, humidity, the light level, all of your sense, all of that's encapsulated in that part. So you got to look at the mental, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And IFS, I don't know, because you and I have always done it our way, the IHC way, even though we didn't call it that. I don't know how IFS does that, but are they addressing physical, mental?
We would call it, they're a secular model that therefore doesn't address, where I've never seen, and I've been through a number of trainings, they've never once addressed the issue of satanic ritual abuse, because they just don't come from that orientation, and they also don't touch on the topic of MK Ultra. And then
it's a completely secular.
That's right.
Whatever. I guess that would be effective for veterans with PTSD or someone who's in a terrible car accident or whatever. Trauma as an adult, I think. But for children and the ritual aspect, I guess IFS doesn't touch those pieces, the very early childhood stuff, or childhood just up whatever age range, and then the spiritual piece of the pie. And that's all that's SRA is using children to train them to become a certain thing, either a perpetrator themselves or a slave to them. With the spiritual component, it has to be addressed.
And the benefits of addressing it, Diana, you are speaking to that, and you've really addressed one of the most foundational aspects, which is recapturing and healing, recapturing. But you know what the enemy tried to steal, a person now is being able to take back and go through the healing process of their sexuality so that their relationship with their spouse, and we want to challenge people from a biblical perspective, think in terms of finally monogamy within a lifetime commitment. The reason why, because you don't want to rewrite Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, which says this: trust in the Lord with all your heart. So if you're living together, you're actually kind of
There's no commitment.
Right? You're rewriting this verse. So trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. That's living together. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he'll direct your path. So if you're in a relationship that is not sealed by marriage in a good, godly way, then
in a commitment, a covenant with each other. And I think that is a the covenant between a husband and wife, I think, is a representation of the covenant between the individual and God.
And when we say husband and wife, we mean biologically a man and a
man
woman.
and a woman. Yes.
That's right. It's important because for those for whom there's hope, and the only people that are going to really watch this, unless perpetrators are trying to watch it to gain additional information, every now and then that happens. But if someone is a survivor, the reason, if they're in a same-sex relationship, if they're homosexual, whatever term we want to use, they're staying away from the greatest pain. So you won't heal unless you finally tackle, and you once said it in your videos, and we'll have people, I'll have you share your website here in just a second. But, you know, for instance, if a woman's been perpetrated against and she's in a lesbian relationship because she hates men, she's never going to heal until she does what? Faces
addresses the men issue.
And the male issue. And the same thing for a guy. And I'll give a guy a hint. The issue is the father. Right. So you're looking for substitutes. And they've gotten into pornography.
Well, and there's also the association if it's two females hate men and God's a man, all the more reason.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know how that really works with a man on man, but I was listening to someone talk about that is that the male perpetration on a boy or another man, it's about psychological control.
There you go. And it leaves the guy,
because you're really stripping away. I think that the manhood, it's about control and slavery.
Right.
And that's, I think, how these Satanists keep their perpetration going, is because there's so few men in this community. And I know that there must be millions of them out there. I believe because a man defiling a boy, that boy has that psychological terror. The perpetrator can turn him into a slave, teach him how to be just like the perpetrator. And I think because a man has that fight and protection, he will want to become stronger than his perpetrator. And so let me become a perpetrator so that I don't have to be a victim to this. I think. I'm not a man, I don't know. But for women, it's very different. So,
and there are those situations.
There's that psychological thing that God is a man.
That's right.
You know, God has control. God, he's a man. So women are going to want to avoid men in general, but God's a man too. So let me become a Buddhist. Or find a religion that has a woman at the head of it, or whatever, the divine feminine, all that. nonsense.
Yeah, the goddess Gia and all that. And for those guys that, the number of guys in the homosexual community that are the more sensitive kind, they need to understand what they're giving up. They're sacrificing themselves, chasing something they're never, which for them, they're actually after the acceptance of their dad, to be honest. And we'll go more into that. Diana, share with people how they can find. Now we're going to be creating a website. We'll
the IHC's
right. We'll show that here in the next couple of episodes when it's all ready. But until then, where can they find your work if they really want to find out the kind of stuff that you've been subjected to? You've been
my story, my memory,
right, your whole story. They need to buckle up if they're going to watch some of the episodes, because you described some of the things and what your parts went through. Where can they find you?
Warlyndi.com, WARLYNDI.com. It also has a second name, Take It to the Next Level Healing.com. Both of those will take you to the same place. My channels are Warlyndi at BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, X, and Facebook. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The website and 5 channels. That's enough to deal with.
And they can reach out to you and ask questions, or
and my email is there, my public email. I will say it does show up on my phone because I have both emails feed into the same thing on my phone. So I usually will get it within a day or so, and it's my habit to respond within 24 hours. So, but the channels in the comment section or the website will give you my public email, and I'll respond and go from there.
As I often say, but certainly yours is literally a wealth of information. So I encourage people to go to your site. Of course, there's SurvivorSupport.net. So between our 2 sites, there's a lot of information to help people move forward on their journey to healing. So.
Yeah. And just to put in there, on the website and the channels, you will see me move from having my memories, starting my sessions with Jon, reading him my earliest of memories. And that is what God guided me to do. He said, when I was thinking about making the channels, I was like, well, should I censor this? He said, no, just read your journals. So it can be graphic, it can be triggering, but I would recommend that if you're going to watch the journals and sessions, start from the very earliest one. Because if you jump in the middle or at the end, you're not going to understand the evolution of how I got to where I'm at. And I start off a basket case, completely, totally confused. Jon helps me untangle things. I come up with different ideas. I like to think that God gave me these ideas, creating charts, graphs, questionnaires, whatever, to get to know my parts. And you'll just see the progression of events to how I got here. And it didn't take 30 years. It took, about 2.5 years with you, 3 years total. And I'm a completely different person, and I feel good. So,
without, as we talk about the concerns of without the emphasis or the focus, or without anything to do with integration or deliverance. So
or drugs or hypnosis,
That's
any
right.
of these things that are promoted, New Age practices. No, this is just working with a counselor and pulling God into it, basically.
There you go. Well, Diana, thank you.
You're welcome.
We will pick it up at this point, part 4. We have probably many, many episodes to go. Even just focusing on what is satanic ritual abuse. When people hear that term, will ease them into a proper understanding so they can apprehend the reason why this is a very unique category of abuse.
And real. It's so real.
And it's 100% real, very real. It's as real as the Epstein files, even more so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
There you go. And we'll pick it up at this point next time.
See you next time.
Okay.
You've been listening to Journey to Healing, sponsored by SurvivorSupport.net. We trust you've been helped by the information our host, Jon Uhler, has shared. To donate to this ministry, to schedule a personal consultation with Jon, or to arrange a professional training for your church or organization with Jon, simply visit our website. On behalf of Survivor Support, we look forward to hearing from you and to have you join us next time on Journey to Healing.